Hello guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video we'll be talking about taking input from the user in Python. So I believe that all the tutorials we've been doing have been very helpful to you. Make sure you keep coding and keep learning because there is more to come your way. So all this while, what we've been doing is printing something on the console. I can just say print. You can actually say something, and we'll be able to print it on the console. Okay. Alright, so what if we actually want to read something from the console, probably take something from the user. So we want to write a code where the user can actually make some input, and then we pick it, put it inside our code, and then process it, and then bring out a particular output. How can we actually do this? It's very simple. So to take input from the user, we use a function called input. So this function will be able to take input from the user. So how does this function work? So input. So how this function works is whenever this function is executed, it holds the console for the user to enter something. Once you are done entering and you click the enter button, then it's going to return what you actually typed back to the code as a string. So let's see how it goes. So this input function returns something. So since it returns something, we're going to create a variable to hold what it returns. So we can call it value, probably the value you entered as the user, and you say is equals to input. Okay, so now let's run this code and let's see what actually happens here. So you see my cursor here, it's already giving me the location to actually type in something. I can actually say I am coding. So, and when I click enter, the code continues. So this value actually held while I enter, but how do I actually know while I actually entered? I will be able to print this value to see what I entered from the user. So let me print what I picked, which is the value. And let me run this code again. I'll be able to say I am coding, and I was able to print the exact thing I received from the user. I am coding. I was able to do what? Print it on the console. So this is how you can actually pick input from the user. So making this code to be more good in the eye, you can actually add some prompt at the input function so that it can actually tell the user what to do. Something like enter something. Okay, so this makes the code more readable. So at this place, now I tell the user to enter something. You'll be able to enter anything at that same line where you have the it has said enter something. So I can actually let me say column and space so that this will look very better now. All right, so it's better now. So I can say my name is Felix, and it's going to take that and then print it out for the user. So this is the simplest way whereby you can actually take input from the user. Now, the input you took from the user, it returns it as a string. Okay, it returns it as a string. This is how you can actually test it. You can say type, you now check the type of the value the input function returns. Okay, let me enter something here. I can say yes, and the type is of string. Let me run it again. Let me enter numbers. I can enter numbers. So you see it also returns it as a string. So whatever you pick from the user, it returns it as a string. Now, what if you actually want to manipulate it maybe as a float or as an integer? How are you going to do that? So to do that, you're going to do the casting we talked about. You're going to do type conversion. converting the value from string to what? Integer if you want to process as an integer, or converting it to float if you want to process it as a float. So how do you do that? It's actually very simple. So here I can say value is equals to int in bracket value. Then what is happening here? I am passing this value here and I am casting it to int, and I am replacing it with whatever that was in this value. Okay, so that at the end what I will have in my value is the value I have converted to int. So it's me converting whatever I receive from this input to integer. So if I run this now, so let me enter a number. You see it is now of type int. Okay, but then instead of taking this long process, I can actually do the casting directly as I'm picking the input. So remember this function is actually returning something. So I can cast this function inside the int function directly by just saying int. I'll open my braces and I'll close it here. Okay. What I did was to pick this input function. Let me remove it so that we can understand. So this is the input function here. Okay, I picked this input function, I picked it, and I casted it into the, and I passed it into the int function that does what? That converts whatever that is inside it to integer. So what happens is when this function prompts the user to enter something, when the user enters and clicks enter, it passes whatever the user entered to the int, and then to the int function, and the int function now returns the int value of that particular variable that was entered. So let me delete this, and when you run this, you see that, okay, let me enter, okay, and I was able to get a type of int. So in case you are working on your code, the same way it works for the integer, that's the same way it will work for the float. So let me say I am converting it to a float. Okay, I'm converting it to a float. If I run and I enter the number, let's say this point, this, then it's already converted to a float. So this is the simplest way you can actually pick input from the user and convert it to the type you actually want to process inside your code. All right, so see you in the next class. Meanwhile, keep coding.